What's up, NASCAR fans? David Land here, bringing you another diecast review, this time on a classic 2001 Racing Champions hauler set with two diecast cars of Dave Blaney's number 93 Amico Ultimate and BP Dodges for Bill Davis Racing. This is a set from the 2001 NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and a lot of people would say, myself included, the glory days of NASCAR racing. A lot of people seem to be disillusioned with NASCAR these days for a variety of reasons: the chase, the BS cautions, all that sort of stuff. But let's take a look back, and I do this a lot with my IndyCar reviews. It's kind of fun to take a look back into the glory days of when we have all this nostalgia for all these great race cars and race teams and paint schemes and all this stuff from days gone by. So I definitely like to hear from you in the comments. Go down and write kind of what your glory days of NASCAR were. Do you actually like the racing and what's going on today, or do you kind of prefer like what it was in 2001? I think it'd be an interesting discussion in the comments, particularly since I've noticed, especially after this Phoenix race, a lot of people very disillusioned with NASCAR and the way it's going. So I'd be interested to see if you still enjoy NASCAR the way it is, what you would change, or maybe what your favorite era of NASCAR was. So without any further ado, let's take a look at this, because it's an I would say an ultimate set, not to be too punny with the sponsors, but I think this is a really great set and something I really wish the Lionel NASCAR Authentics would do, because we've got a realistic hauler and two realistic cars that correlate with the team's hauler. Now, I don't really know how all of this worked. In my travels on eBay, as of course I got this on eBay, I've noticed that there were a variety of hauler variations. Some would come with one car, some would come with two cars, some would come with two of the same car, and some would come with alternate paint schemes. It was really all over the board from what I can tell, and I don't really remember. I was, of course, alive in these days in 2001, and I was, of course, of diecast playing with age, but I don't remember these very well in the store. So I don't really remember how these were set up, or how they were assorted, or how any of this worked. Of course, this is a part of the Chase the Race segment of Racing Champions from 2001. I've actually reviewed one of these earlier. It was a 124 of Jimmy Spencer's Kmart car. How this worked was, and I did notice this from my eBay travels, you would see right here, this would be where the chase piece is, and the chase pieces would be either an autograph from Dave Blaney, a piece of his tire, or a piece of like race-used fiberglass, or a sheet metal, or I guess uniform. I'm not really sure how that works, but and then another thing would be like a chrome car. I don't know if any of these haulers became chrome, or they made the die cast up here chrome, but whatever. But yeah, a pretty generic box. These Racing Champions were always fairly generic with the boxes, which probably saved them on cost. As you can see, there's a sticker over this bit here, the explanation of Chase the Race, so they either had a typo or something that they needed to correct there. But there you go. That's what tells you what the Chase the Race levels are. And then, of course, you've got on the bottom here all the Racing Champions legalese, and lots and lots of legalese. And then kind of something that Racing Champions always did is leave a space for a driver's signature. So if I were to ever see Dave Blaney, I guess I could get him to sign this. So let's take this out of the box. Of course, it is a resealable packaging, despite the fact that it is taped here on the sides. So I will be able to put this hauler back in the box if I so choose. But for the purposes of this review, let's get it out and take a look at it. This is one of my favorite schemes in all of NASCAR history, so I'm very excited to take a look at it. Alright, so let's first take a look at what is really the star of the show, the big old Amico Ultimate hauler. Now, this is really a nice looking hauler. I think of the ones I own, aside from the NASCAR Authentics, the Spin Master Penske hauler, this is probably my favorite NASCAR hauler I've ever owned in my whole life, because it is just absolutely stunningly gorgeous. The Amico Ultimate paint scheme, like I said, is one of my absolute favorites. that's ever kind of come out of NASCAR. Just an absolutely lovely looking hauler. I think the paint scheme with the black on the light blue and light red with the yellow and the gold number. Of course, one of these cars has a fluorescent orange number, but we'll be taking a look at that later on. But just, I think the color scheme absolutely works wonders. And it's a real shame that Amico gas stations aren't around anymore. As we'll get into later on, there's a reason there's a BP car in this set, and it's because there was a merger between both BP and Amico in 1998, and by 2001 and 2002, the BP stations started taking over, or BP kind of rebranded all of the Amico stations to be BP rather than Amico. So just a little business lesson there. So let's take a look. We'll take a look at the truck first, since there's not as much stuff here on the actual semi to take a look at. It is very plain. You've just got a Bill Davis Racing logo there, fairly simple logo, and then a Bill Davis Racing logo on this side. Now this is a heavy metal piece. This is a lot heavier metal than the Lionel or the Spin Master haulers that I'm used to, or you may be used to, by a long ways. In fact, the whole chassis of the truck is metal. The bottom is plastic. The fuel tanks here are plastic. The tires are the kind of that synthetic rubber that's actually very similar to the Spin Master stuff, but they have Goodyear Eagles on them. Look at that. Actually, that's a really nice touch. I don't think either of the new haulers from Spin Master or Lionel have Goodyear Eagles on them. So that looks very nice. In fact, the Bill Davis Racing logo is a sticker. It's not a tampo or whatever, a tampu decal. I can't remember exactly what those are called. But yeah, it's just a sticker. That's interesting. That's really interesting. And it's sticker on both sides. Wow, that's actually a well blended in sticker, of course, because it is a black truck, and you can't really tell. But yeah, all of this is metal. Top is metal, sides are metal. I mean, this is a heavy piece, a really heavy piece of die cast. Actually, surprisingly heavy. So we'll get the trailer here, the tractor trailer, and this is absolutely going to be a big-time part of my collection here. I will display this one proudly because it's I absolutely think this hauler is absolutely stunning. The color scheme is fantastic. It just looks amazing. And now there's a lot of these Amico product out there. You may notice on eBay. Oh, there's my camera. Hi, camera. Obviously, yeah. This whole thing is plastic, but yeah, there's a lot of this Amico product out there because they had a deal with Racing Champions, and they sent a ton of it to the gas stations. If you look on eBay, there's still cases and cases of the die-cast Amico cars all over the place, still unopened, sealed. They produced a ton of Amico die-cast back in the day. And that just looks absolutely fantastic there on the back of the hauler. Again, Lionel, realistic haulers for the NASCAR Authentics. You have to do it. Just stop with the fantasy stuff. It's not fun. It's not cool. I don't like it. But I'm going to try not to rant too much about that, but that does grind my gears quite a bit. And then you've got the part where the cars can come in, and there is space in there. So we'll take a look with our Amico Ultimate cars later on when we put them in there. But I think this is definitely my favorite hauler. Yeah, I'm going to say it's more of a favorite to me than the Penske one was by just a little bit. And of course, Goodyear's on this as well. That's a very nice touch. I think that is absolutely wonderful. And again, I mean, that just screams classic NASCAR. If that, and especially if that doesn't scream classic NASCAR to you, these next cars will. So let's take a look at the cars that came in this set. So obviously, since it's an Amico Ultimate hauler, we had to take a look at the Amico Ultimate Dodge first. This is the car that raced most of the season in 2001 for Bill Davis Racing and Dave Blaney. It's kind of weird because they did do a lot of livery changes throughout the season. In fact, they made diecast for most of the changes they made to the paint scheme or livery. It depends how hoity-toity you are. Yeah, so originally, I think in the 2001 Daytona 500, they ran only gold numbers, and then at some point they moved to this fluorescent orange number, and they ran this both on the side and on the top of the car, which is fairly interesting. But aside from the rest of the paint scheme, I don't think much of it changed throughout the season. Of course, this was Dodge's return to NASCAR after a very long time out of the sport, and it was met with a lot of fanfare. I mean, Dodge promoted the absolute heck out of coming back. They had a full factory team with Evernham Motorsports, with 2 cars adorned with Dodge logos all over them. And then, of course, they had Bill Davis Racing. They had whatever team Stacy Compton raced for. I can't remember exactly which one that was. They had Jason Leffler and Sterling Marlin for Ganassi Racing, and I think that was all the teams. I can't remember. There may be one more. Oh yeah, Petty Enterprises, of course. How could I forget? But yeah, they had a pretty big return to NASCAR. In fact, a lot of people complained, much like they do with Toyota these days, that Dodge had an advantage. I don't know if they really did have an advantage or not. They definitely had an advantage qualifying on the super speedways, but as we know, super speedway qualifying has always been a bit suspect in NASCAR, so we'll just leave it at that. Let's take a look at this beautiful car up close. This is my favorite of the 2 paint schemes that are included in the set, just because I think the Amico Dodge's, actually the Amico Pontiac looks a little bit better than the Dodge paint scheme, because they actually use the Circle Flame, I wanted to say Circle Flame logo, but that's not right. They use the Amico logo with the torch, there you go, which I think looks a little bit better than the generic Amico Ultimate you see there. I kind of wish they had integrated the torch and flame into this scheme. But aside from that, I think it looks absolutely wonderful. Now, pay attention to the Dodge RT on the back. That actually is going to change when we take a look at the BP scheme, as the BP scheme is a later season paint scheme for this car. But an absolutely beautiful, beautiful scheme. I just love the color motif on this. I wish... This is weird because paint schemes, what happened to them? Why don't they look this good anymore? Is it just nostalgia? Is it just my nostalgia, or did they look better back in these days? Is that Rexall? No, it's Rexall Consolidated Electric Supply, so that's interesting. Interesting to see Winnebago on there. Of course, a lot of NASCAR fans buy their Winnebagos to go to the race. And here's the bottom of the chassis, to be Steve Matchett a bit. And a lot of detail under here. Actually, a lot more detail than I think we get these days. But a very nice looking car. Definitely a NASCAR diecast I was kind of dying to add to my collection, and I'm very happy to get it and a taller. So let's move on to the second car we get in the set, the BP Amico Ultimate Scheme. So yes, like I said, the late season Dave Blaney BP Amico Ultimate Scheme. Now, I actually had a guy on Twitter say that this was one of his favorite schemes, the BP one, which is interesting because I've always preferred the Amico scheme. Yeah, this is a very good looking car, despite the fact that I'm kind of a little bit annoyed, like I said earlier, that BP ended up taking over Amico and just kind of destroying the brand, just kind of getting totally rid of the brand. Kind of unfortunate, because I think Amico actually started as, this is going to go way off on a tangent, so just excuse me for a second. There was in the early 1900s there was the Standard Oil Company, and the Standard Oil Company was this big conglomerate and was actually broken up under trust laws. And I think in the early 1910s, so every state ended up with a Standard Oil Company. Now, some of those merged and became stuff like Texaco and maybe Standard, Chevron. I think there's a few other ones. Gulf is another one. But the Standard of Indiana, Standard Oil of Indiana, and of course I'm from Indiana, became Amico, which was American Oil Company. So just a little fun fact, Amico was an Indiana company. And I definitely have a connection to that, being a Hoosier myself. So it's kind of unfortunate that the BP in British Petroleum, there you go, I gave away the punchline. The BP in BP is British Petroleum, so it was kind of weird that British Petroleum took over American Oil Company. But whatever. As you can see, Dodge RT. Now this is a little bit different already on the front here from the Amico car. Slightly smaller font, as you can tell. Obviously, this is also a late season scheme, so perhaps they were able to get a more accurate render to Racing Champions to be able to produce this car. But I absolutely think these Dodges from this era, in fact, let's face it, all of the cars from this era of NASCAR looked really pretty good, and they sounded amazing on the super speedways. Absolutely wonderful sounding cars. And then here you go on the back here, you got Dodge RT. And then Dodge RT, you can see the RT underneath the Dodge and not underneath the Dodge. But yeah, this is a very good looking scheme. I do appreciate that there is some Amico branding on it, even though I'm not a big fan of green and yellow cars. I think it does look good. I do know this car ran at the 2001 Winston 500 at Talladega. I don't know how many other races it ran in. I think Dave Blaney definitely had the most success in 2001 in the Amico Ultimate scheme. In fact, I think he almost won in Atlanta, were it not for a wheel falling off. There's a little paint chip there. I did not do that. That was how it came in the package. But yeah, this is a scheme that didn't run too much, but a lot of people like it. There seems to be a cult following for this car for whatever reason. I'm happy to add it to the collection because it's kind of a different die-cast, one that you don't see a whole lot of these days. So let's take a look at the whole set all together out of its box. So here it is, the total Bill Davis Racing team out of its box. This is probably one of my favorite NASCAR items I've bought in a very long time, possibly ever. I think the set looks amazing, especially out of the box. I mean, just look at this shot. I mean, it looks so realistic. It looks like I almost took a photo in 2001 and was able to somehow bring it through into the future or something. It's very, very nice. I absolutely love this scheme. And I love talking about the past of the sport. I hope you do too. I'd love to, again, I'm really excited for the comment section on this video and all your memories about NASCAR past, present, and future. But this is an absolutely fantastic set. Definitely, if you are a fan of Dave Blaney or you're a fan of another 2001 NASCAR driver, I would definitely suggest tracking down their Racing Champions hauler set. Because this is an absolutely fantastic collector's piece. Looks unbelievable, and I would definitely suggest, because they're pretty cheap on eBay. I got this for under $20, completely sealed up. So I mean, and you think about that, $5 for each car and $10 for a hauler. That's a really good price. Much better than, again, Lionel is charging right now for fantasy haulers. I'm gonna promise not to go too far into that. Fantasy, ugh, I hate fantasy haulers. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and let me know in the comments. I always appreciate that. And subscribe for more. As I find more of this cool NASCAR stuff from the past that I like to show off, I will definitely be showing it off. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.